Hey everyone, welcome to the Tuesday edition. I'm going to tell you all why I paused for a second. The Tuesday edition of Litvak Leadership Live. I was just talking with my new friend Matthew D. Anderson about, you know, I read online, people either say things are opening up or another wave is coming. I am here to tell you things are opening up because everyone is getting busy. Everyone I know is getting busy, at least those people who want to work. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But first, Matthew, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here and excited to chat with you today.
So Matthew talks about and coaches folks professionally on being the leader that you want to be, being the leader that you need to be, leadership coaching for results, which is not the banner I wanted. Here we go. Become the leader you need and want to be. Hey, it's live streaming and we do make mistakes, and in life you can do that. So Matthew, tell us a little bit what you mean by become the leader you need and want to be.
Yeah, thank you for asking. I appreciate it. It's really it's something that I'm so passionate about is really this difference between management and leadership, and that historically management and leadership were synonymous. When you read the research of Peter Drucker and so forth, they were synonymous. But really, particularly over the last 20 years, they've diverged pretty dramatically, where management is really about process and getting things done and having a team of people who are hitting the numbers and being good at it. But leadership is really about motivating, inspiring, empowering, helping people to become bigger and better than they already are so that they can help our organizations to grow even more as well. And for each person, leadership is defined uniquely within that context. My definition of leadership and your definition of leadership aren't necessarily 100% in sync with one another, and that's okay. It's really about helping people to be the leader that they need and they want to be.
Well, and anyone that during this time of pandemic that has been saying, I've just been struggling, I haven't gotten anywhere, I just don't know what to do. I just don't have a lot of empathy for those people because I had started a brand new job with no sales funnel. And I had to do the number one thing that you should not do in the midst of a pandemic, and that's pick up the phone and cold call people. But I found ways to be creative. I found ways to get in front of people. I tapped into that leadership within me. I found people to surround myself with. How do you motivate people? How do you encourage people to do that, Matthew, that say, I just don't know what to do? And because when I hear people say that, I look at them like they have three heads.
Well, I'll be honest with you. The people that I work with often are not the individual that is a victim. They may have had problems occur, as I did. I mean, I was so I'll share briefly about how I got to where I am right now with leadership coaching for results. At the 2018, 2019 were really pretty big culmination points for me in my career. I had finished a pair of graduate degrees, one in conflict management and one in my MBA. I had finished both of those recently, and then in 2019, I was recognized by Dale Carnegie and Associates as the #1 corporate trainer in the world. Wow. It was about 3,000, so that was a pretty big honor. And then as kind of all these things were coming together, and some other work that I had done with a nonprofit my consulting firm was serving, I was installed as the executive director of a mental health nonprofit for youth, and we secured, with the heavy lift, we secured a $3 million line item for the 21 budget, and then COVID hit 2 days later and killed everything. Then I started working with our congressperson in Washington, D.C. That was a heavier lift, got a $3 million included in the CARES Act, but it took forever to show up. And so I ended up getting, after cutting all expenses, I was the last expense, and for the good of the nonprofit, I had to lay myself off in July. And so, as you're talking about people who have a victim mentality or I don't know what to do, I don't know how or whatever, I understand being in that moment. Here I was literally at the top of my career and had to lay myself off. It wasn't due to failure, it wasn't due to stupidity, it was due to, the things that we're all dealing with right now. And it really
Right.
came down to trusting my skills, my abilities, my experiences, my education, and combining them so that I could be of service to other people. So as you're talking about this, I'm in agreement with you that we all have the parts and pieces within us. If we're mindful of the experiences we've had and the successes we've had, we all have the ability, when we trust ourselves, to have what we need and what we want, and to come out of this even better than we were when we went in.
So when you look at your website, I gotta ask you this here. Okay, what is with the thumbprint?
Thanks for asking. I appreciate that. Yeah, so you'll see this painting right here behind me. I'm actually an artist. It was something I started doing for myself in 2015, just for fun. I was in graduate school. We were having children. I was in the consulting firm and very, very busy. I wanted something for me, so I started making art, and it kind of took on a life of its own. And I've received some awards nationally and been exhibited all over the country, which is really cool. But the way I sign my art is with my thumbprint. And so for me, as we're developing leaders, what we are as leaders are artists of helping people to do what they need to feel fulfilled and help our organizations to grow and so forth. And when we do that, we're leaving our fingerprints all over everything and our legacy all over everything. And so I liked this notion of the tagline for leadership coaching for results is to leave your mark. Because as a leader, that's exactly what you're doing, is you're leaving your mark on people and on organizations and helping all of them to be better because of you. So that's the thought behind the thumbprint.
Well, and it's funny. My next banner was, taking the leap to leave your mark. How do you get people to leap that they may want to? And yesterday I talked about, and I've talked to my mastermind group about this. I have 4 pages of single-spaced material of all the ideas of things that I want to do, and I have finally distilled it down when I look at my whiteboard to 6 things that I'm actually working on specific, but those 6 expand into about 36 and then go back to the 4 pages. So, and it's taken me literally months to figure this out. So I feel like I've been leaping, but I haven't been landing. How do you help people get through that process faster?
I think it's so cool what you're sharing, because what you're sharing is really how a lot of people's minds work. You're just articulating it all and you're documenting it all. Like a lot of us have fleeting thoughts that all kind of culminate around certain topics. And by documenting them like you're doing, then we're able to distill down and say, what are really the core elements, the core tenets of who I am and how I operate and what I find important and so forth. And so exactly like you're saying here, it's really about talking to people and asking the right questions. So in the coaching that I do, it's not about a predefined outcome that I have. There are topics we discuss. We discuss trust and empathy and vulnerability and diversity, equity, and inclusion and engaging a remote workforce and things that are very topical for 2021, but also timeless in that if you can do these things, you can lead anybody. And so it's really about setting a context around what is leadership looking like and how do you want to implement it within your own life and land, to your point, and in such a place and in such a way that's fulfilling, that's of service to others, that's meaningful to you and to those around you, and also that you make some money while you're doing it because we got bills to pay. So how do you do that? And it's really about asking the right questions so that people can define it for themselves.
So what questions should people be asking to define it for themselves?
So I have really kind of a one size doesn't fit all approach, right? So I'm pretty clear on our website that we're not for everybody, and really the biggest thing that I always start with is a vision, and so my assumption is your viewers are familiar with a vision. If they haven't already written a vision for themselves, they at least understand the concept of a vision. Most people who are following leadership type work like we're discussing here are familiar with this concept. It's the act of doing it that a lot of people haven't necessarily done. And so I start by saying, really, what does being a leader mean for you? And with a little bit of context, help them frame it out, and then they go decide it for themselves. And then what I do with them is I push them really, really hard on, like, is that what you really want? Is that what you really care about? And why? And so what that allows is helping each person to identify for themselves what the type of leader is that they need and want to be. And look at that, you're right on target with me here with these banners. This is great. It's like a professionally done podcast.
Okay.
like you've done this almost 150 times. So that's exactly what it is really asking people, what do you want? Why do you want it? And that's a real critical thing. And all of us can do this. You don't need Sean or I to ask you why you want something, but it's helpful when you've got somebody like Sean or I saying, why do you want something? Because if we say, oh, I just want to go make more money, I want to get out of the pandemic and have the same salary that I already had or 10% bigger or whatever, great. But who really cares? Like, why is that the end goal? Like, I mean, I get it. I've got bills to pay like everyone else, but that's not it. That's not what fulfills us. That's not what makes us who we are at the end of the day. That's not what goes on our tombstone and in our eulogies. What it is the people that we touch along the way, the people that we impact, the people that we help and serve, and that's what it really boils down to. And why asking why, like Simon Sinek. If you're not familiar with Simon Sinek, his content is very, very popular, and so for your viewers, I would recommend it. Starting with why. I mean, that's it. Is really why, and then asking why again and again and again until we get to really a central root cause of identifying who is this person in front of me, and how do I help them become the person they want to be.
Yeah, and I've got it written on the wall, and I want to quote it correctly. Simon Sinek says, why, how, what?
Yep.
It's all about why, and then you move on to how. And where so many companies and individuals fail is that they just look at what.
Exactly.
So would you say, I had a guest on once who said something that really rang true, just like a gong going off in me. He's like, you can have lots of goals, but you only have one priority. So where would you say, for you at least, the difference between priority and vision is?
So, I mean, I would probably want to understand the greater context of this individual's, statement there. But I would say, in my mind, that a vision and priority are probably synonymous.
Okay.
That I use the word vision, and I'm very passionate about vision. I've been speaking about vision for probably 10 or more years, and it's something that as I've been mentoring of college students, I do a lot of work with a local university here, Michigan State University. I sit on one of their boards, and I do a lot of work with their college students. I always start with a vision, and actually, what it really boils down to for me is when I was in college, I had a professor. It was an elective course I had, and he didn't even grade anything. He's like, "What grade do you want? That's the grade that you get." And so he didn't require assign anything. And a lot of people would take this class because it was an easy 4-point. I found it to be fascinating that I really had the luxury of exploring whatever I wanted to explore within the confines of this program. And one of the assignments, everything was optional. One of the assignments was to write your own eulogy, or when you've passed away, your obituary. Yeah. The obituary. Yep. And so I took the opportunity to do this, and that was really very formative for me back when I was an undergraduate student, was to think about, what do I want said about me when I die? And that really helped me to frame up later on the importance of a vision. If we really think with the end in mind of like, what do I want people to say about who I was and what I meant to them? That to me is what this individual is talking about in regards to a priority. We can have lots of goals. I have many myself, and I've written them down, and I've talked about it in the daily YouTube content that I do every day, talking about the importance of goals. But to your point about priority, I do think that there's probably only one or two, maybe three things that we really distill down as finding meaningful and defining of our character. And so I would agree with that individual.
Just hearing you talk, I feel as though a priority is a target, and the vision is what you achieve when you hit that target. Makes sense? What do you think?
I would affirm that and support it. When I talk about a vision, the explanation that I often use is my wife and I, when we got married, we went to Hawaii for a honeymoon, and so one of the things that we got to do, she planned the whole wedding. We lived in separate states. She planned the wedding, I planned the honeymoon. She knew we were going to Hawaii, but that's all she knew. And so one of the things that we got to do was go snorkeling with manta rays at night. And so
Wow.
what they do is super cool. It's really, really neat. And the reason why they do it at night is because divers put big torch lights on the bottom of the ocean, which attracts plankton, which attracts manta rays, and then you can swim with them. And so you got to go out like, so far in the ocean to do this. And we were on like a 2-hour boat ride. And it was an incredible experience. The manta ray brushes up against me. It was a beautiful, really incredible experience. On the way back, I decided to sit on the front of the boat. And while it seemed like a cool idea, it was foolish because we're in the middle of the ocean and waves are crashing on me, and I was just getting soaked with cold ocean water, and I knew there were monsters in the water because I had just seen them all. And so I share this story, and it's far more elaborate and colorful as I'm sharing it. But one of the things that happens is I get to this point where it seems like, 'cause I'm getting soaked with water and it's miserable, I feel like this 2-hour boat ride's taking 5 hours. And I let my mind wander for a moment of like, what if the GPS is out? Like, what if? And I finally, after what seemed like forever, I see this pinprick of light on the horizon. Every time we go up on the wave, I can see the pinprick, and when we go down, I lose it. And what I realized was it was the lighthouse. And that, while I didn't know what was between us and the lighthouse, it could have been icebergs or God knows what. Not in Hawaii probably, but who knows? It could have been anything between us. And while you're on a boat, you're never going in a straight line. You're always kind of veering back and forth. But we know what the destination point is, exactly to your point here, and that it's the lighthouse. And when we get to the lighthouse, we're home. And so I would agree with exactly what you're saying. That's we've got priorities and a vision, and they work together.
So let's talk about your testimonials, because I am just so incredibly impressed. Here you've got 6 testimonials of what appear to be real people making their own videos. Haven't listened to them, but just looking at the folks, I can tell that they're real. And you told me you've got 30 testimonials from people. I mean, do your clients just love you that they're willing to do this?
Well, I appreciate you asking that, and I appreciate you pointing it out. I've been in this industry long enough to know, and I've created many websites throughout my career, and I've done the testimonial thing over and over and over again. And I know from experience that you can make anything you want. You could just make it up. And you can say whatever glowing thing you want from some anonymous person with a first name only, and it's fine and good. But I really wanted to bring to my clients and my prospective clients an actual face, an actual person, and actual outcomes that they have experienced. There's something to be said for seeing another person really talking about their experience. And so I went back to a number of my clients and asked them, and I have a second coach on my team, and I had her do the same thing. And so as our website is fully launching next week, there's going to be some 36 videos all throughout this website that talk about really the core pillars of how we operate, where we're talking about helping people to discover themselves and feel empowered and have positive accountability towards achieving the goals that they need and want. And so all these videos, it was really neat about it is as I was forming this company, the first thing I did was I went to these people and I said, hey, I'm doing this. I have no agenda for what I want you to talk about. I would just like you to talk about the impact, the biggest thing that stands out when you think about our time together. You talk about it for a couple, 2 minutes or so, and I'm going to put it up on the website. And what they did was they all kind of fell around these core concepts, and that's how I decided to build the company, was around what my past clients who have been so happy have to say. If they found this to be successful, then that's the thing that I'm going to focus on. And so it was really formative in building the company, and valuable for prospective clients to see real people talking about real outcomes. So I'm very honored that so many of these people were willing to do this.
So you also talk about equipping your clients with tools to make it easier to achieve their goal.
Yeah.
Can you give us an example of what some of these tools would be?
Yeah. So I appreciate that you're asking that. There's a couple different things. So some are kind of macro level, some are micro level. And so when we talk about macro level things, I'm talking about building trust and really the importance of trust. the power of vulnerability, and how if we demonstrate vulnerability that, hey, I'm your manager, but I'm also a human being, and I've gone through real hardship just like you, or I've got a family member who's going through COVID, or, this person that I know is dealing with whatever. Like, when we share pieces of ourselves and demonstrate empathy as we're hearing these stories from the people who are around us, what happens is that builds trust. And when we have trust, it builds respect. And when we give respect freely, a lot of people think that respect needs to be earned. And that's something that we've said as a society for God knows how long. I would disagree that as a leader, we should give respect freely. And if somebody screws up, then we help coach and counsel them so that they don't screw up again. And if somebody's malicious or antagonistic, well, they probably don't deserve to be on the team. But when we demonstrate respect first and foremost and give it freely, it will be reciprocated to us more rapidly. And so it's talking about topics like this and really digging into them and helping people to think about things that they already know, but maybe in a slightly different way, so that they can be more successful as they're leading the teams in the way that they need and want to.
And interesting. I agree with your premise that, just getting people to have the confidence that their idea isn't crap.
Yeah.
I mean, It sounds so stupid when I hear myself saying it, but I think so many people are concerned to speak up that they're going to sound stupid. I mean, I've had people point out to me, and it is a sensitive point to me. I've had some people say to me, they're like, "Do you realize you stutter?" And I've said to them, I go, "What do you mean I stutter?" They're like, "Well, go back and watch some of your videos." And I was in speech therapy for the first 8 years of school. And when I get into situations like this, it jumps out at like that. But, it's interesting that I think some people will just not want to have the opportunity to appear foolish, as opposed to going, "But what's the prize if I look stupid?" Do you see what I'm trying to say here?
Absolutely. And I agree entirely that what you're saying is real. One of the things that I dig into on the vulnerability piece is demonstrating, not necessarily to your employees, but within a safe environment, like in a cohort environment that I facilitate, demonstrating and owning really the hard parts, the painful parts. Because when we do it publicly, at least once, what it allows us to do is feel more comfortable and confident in being able to do it again, or doing a smaller thing more safely. We all have naturally a fear of looking stupid. And it's partly part of our Western culture. It's partly part of, individualism. It's partly part of trying to make sure that we're putting on a happy face and projecting ourselves the way that we want society to perceive us. And we don't like looking foolish. And so when we have, and we all have from time to time, when we've looked foolish, it puts that kind of a mark or red flag in our mind of like, oh, I want to avoid doing this thing again, because last time that happened, I looked like a jerk, or somebody laughed at me, or somebody picked on me for stuttering, or whatever. And an individual who doesn't have the mental resilience to endure the potential negative outcome is going to miss out on real opportunities throughout their life. And so, what we're talking about here, what you're suggesting here, is really, really valuable. And your listeners should be paying attention to it, that, you're overcoming in this moment, even right now, the thing that caused fear and anxiety for years and years and years, and you're doing it anyway, because that you're better than that, and that one thing is not a defining characteristic of who you are. And so we can all be better by facing those fears and overcoming them.
So thank you, first of all. On that note, empowering people to start practicing being the leader that they've always imagined. I read that, and I think about, at least in my career, I was always doing things that I did not necessarily have authority to do. And then once people saw me doing them, I was given the authority eventually. Is that what you're talking about?
I think there's a little bit of truth to that. I haven't framed it that way in my mind, but yeah, I would say that that's very similar to what we're talking about here. So one of the things that we do in the Leadership Mastery program that I run, it's a cohort type program. So we meet once a month as a group of 12 for a year, and we discuss all these topics. It's facilitated conversation. It's exploring as adults previous successes and failures and how we can grow and learn from each other. But one of the things that we have built into it that I really am very excited and passionate about for the participants is this program project called the Ember. And so it's that thing deep inside of you. You're like, man, if my company would just do this, like we'd be better off, we'd be more profitable, we'd save more money, we'd have whatever. And it's really about, each individual person, we all have this thing where like the company should just do this. Like, why don't they? And somebody who does have the authority either doesn't see the value or never thought of it or whatever. And when we ignite with that passion, this idea, we have the ability to own and grow something new for the organization. And by doing that, exactly like you said, we're demonstrating leadership live and in the moment with or without the title associated with it. And what happens as an outcome is, if you build a whole new product line, who the hell do you think they're going to put in as the next VP of that product line? Probably the person who created it. So you're exactly right. And so that's something that I really am very passionate about. It's like, let's go do this live and in the moment, and let's get coaching to work together, because some of it's not going to work the way that you want, and some of it's going to be more wildly successful than you can ever imagine. And let's learn from each other so we can all be better together.
So you called it the Leadership Cohort Program. Is that similar to a mastermind then?
Yeah, so I was looking a little bit at masterminds, because I've been hearing about masterminds for a while, and I was like, what is a mastermind myself? And actually, I didn't know what the definition of a mastermind was until recently. And yeah, I would say it's similar to a mastermind. It is similar to a mastermind. We meet once a month, and it's for 90 minutes. So it's high intensity, in and out. We do some reporting out to each other in video and share that in like a centralized private group. And that way we can, really condense down the amount of live time that we spend. That's, going to be a knock against what we have available to us in the given day. You can watch some videos while you're lying in bed before bed, and you don't have to worry about, the time it's going to take to do that. But yeah, it really is about helping people come together, think as a group, and think as really facing these topics and saying, what does that mean to me? Is this something that I want to incorporate in my leadership journey? Or is, empathy, for example, not important because the industry I'm in, it doesn't matter? I personally don't see that as being realistic, but for some individual, that could be the case. And so, it's introducing content and then allowing people to explore it together with people from around the country in diverse segments and diverse industries. And being able to then say, hey, I'm dealing with this shrinkage problem in my company. Like, I talked to this guy before, I've written him up before. Like, now the shrinkage is getting worse. Like, I don't know what to do, and I'm going to lose my job if I don't figure out how to deal with this guy. But I don't have enough to actually fire him. But my job's on the line because I'm confident he's causing the problem. What do I do? And so now you got this group of people, and you don't have to look like a jerk in your local community because you're going to the person at your lunch and learn, being like, I don't know, like, I'm not a good manager anymore. Like, you can actually have an adult conversation without being judged, because these are people who are in the exact same space as you, all over the country, and you're not going to see them as part of your peer group, in the local community. You're not going to have to worry about bumping into them and, that kind of thing. So yeah, I would say that it's really about helping people to grow how they need and want to.
So who would you say, because when you have different people come into a leadership cohort program, you are probably attracting people at various, I'm not going to use the word levels, but at different parts of their leadership journey, different, time frames. How do you make sure that you're pairing up the right group? Do you have multiple cohorts, that this is for this position, this is for this time frame? How does that work exactly?
You're exactly right. Yep. So we run multiple cohorts simultaneously, and it is about seeking to identify commonalities, but also not making it so homogenous that there's not diversity of thought. It's important, at least in my mind, that on average the cohorts are industry agnostic. So if a company says, I'm working with a large company right now, and we're in conversation about what does a greater relationship look like. And if they say to me, we want to do 3 cohorts of just our people working together, great, I'll do that. And if they say, you know what, we've got 36 people and we want them in 36 separate groups, great, we'll do that too. And that's really how I prefer to operate is, what's important to the organization or the entity that's paying. I mean, if it's an individual paying, then you tell me what you want and I'm going to give it to you. If the organization's paying for it, then, I've got to be mindful that they're the client and you're getting the outcome, the benefit. So I got to kind of mind both. But it really is, it's about pairing in a reasonable way. So, I mean, I currently have a CEO paired with a non-manager, paired with a director of a high-level director of an IT program, paired with, I mean, it's about, how do we get people very diverse ideas and thought from the group of people so that they can think and grow and learn together.
While at the same time not having a group that's all CEOs that have these tremendous ideas, but there's no one that's boots on the ground that says, okay, but wait a minute, that sounds great, but how are we going to do it?
You're exactly right. Or we could get stereotypical and say, a group of 65-year-old white male CEOs who are being introduced to diversity, equity, and inclusion as a topic. I mean, there's going to be a very different appreciation of that topic from that demo than a bunch of 30-year-old people of color and females and males all grouped together. So it's really about making sure that the diversity of thought exists so that we can learn and grow from each other.
So, Matthew, we've gone 31 minutes on the 30-minute show. It's been rapid fire. It's been entertaining. It's been educational. What I want you to do for the next 2 minutes is speak directly to the current audience and those that are going to watch on replay and tell them how they can get started.
Yeah, I appreciate it so much. Thank you for that, Sean. One of the biggest things that I want to share is, as I experienced laying myself off due to COVID, and people are dealing with job insecurity, financial insecurity, health insecurity, just insecurity in general. You started the show by saying we're either opening up or we're shutting back down, and nobody really knows, and it changes hour to hour. So for each individual person, all we can do is the best that we can do. And all we can do is trust the experiences that we've had, and that the things that you've already been successful in the past, or that you've maybe not been as successful as you'd like and you've learned from, when you take those things and put them together, you have within you the solution for any challenge that you're currently facing when you trust yourself. And so, if trusting yourself means that you want to join a journey like I'm doing, then you go to my website and learn all about what we're doing on leadership coaching for results. If you want to go down the journey of getting higher education, or if you want to work with whoever that is, right? Every single person knows what they really need deep down when they listen to themselves, when they trust themselves, when they have that vision for what their life is. Everyone knows what the right solution is. It's just a matter of taking the leap, like we said, trusting yourself and making it happen. And every single person who's listening right now, you have the ability, you have the power, and you can do this if you trust yourself.
Amen to that. Matthew, thank you so much for being my guest today. You're passionate about leadership. You're passionate about growing people. Here's his website again, leadershipcoachingforresults.com. Check it out. Listen to the testimonials. See if Matthew is the guy for you to help you to move forward. Everyone else, that's Litvak Leadership Live for today. We'll be back tomorrow with another guest, with another topic. Oh, tomorrow's topic, completely different. Not even going to tell you what it is. Have never talked about it on the show. You got to show up to find out what it is. That's it now. Everyone have a great day and be blessed. Bye now.